favorite dishes, spaghetti and meatballs. Spaghetti has always been one of my favorites, and it's really simple. I'm making a marinara sauce, and to that I'm going to be adding some meatballs. The ingredients we'll be using today for the sauce are 26 ounces of diced tomatoes, 26 ounces of crushed tomatoes. And this is optional. Some dry red wine. We always like that in our sauce, but you can omit that. I'll also be using about 1/3 cup of olive oil, and that's extra virgin. For the spices, 1/2 teaspoon of oregano and 1/2 teaspoon of basil, and garlic, about 2 cloves of minced garlic. If you need to add something to thicken your sauce, I also recommend adding tomato paste, a tablespoon or 2. Then you can taste it and see if you need to add a little bit of sweetener, maybe a teaspoon of sugar. If you use Roma tomatoes, chances are you won't have to add the sugar to it. And I've also added a teaspoon of salt. So we have that simmering, and now I'm going to mix together the meatballs that I'm actually just going to drop right into the sauce. They're not going to be browned following mixing them. In this bowl I have about 1 pound of lean ground beef, and to that I've added 1/4 pound of ground pork. And to that I'm going to add 10 crushed saltines, and they're pretty finely crushed. If you want to add a little bit of milk to this and let it set for a while, you can do that, especially if you're using really extra lean meat to give it a little bit more moisture. So to this you might want to add about 1/4 of a cup to 1/3 cup of milk. And you can add this, and then I'm going to be adding an egg to help with the keeping the meatball together, and also going to add 1/4 cup of Romano. You can use Parmesan if you like. I like a little bit stronger cheese, so I'm using the Romano instead. And then I'm adding a little bit of oregano, and also about a teaspoon of salt. And can't forget the garlic. Here's 2 cloves of garlic. And with my hands I am going to mix this. One thing to keep in mind about meatballs is that you don't want to overmix. It does make them tough. So we are just going to mix this thoroughly but gently until all ingredients are mixed together. Now that the meat is all mixed together, I'm going to be using a large ice cream scoop to form uniform meatballs. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And as I'm doing this, I'm just going to be dropping it directly into the sauce. So as I go along, just making sure that it's all nice and together, and then just dropping it right into the sauce. And just to let you know that this same recipe can be utilized as a meatloaf, just with exactly the same ingredients. Once again, if you're not into the garlic, you can replace that with very finely minced onions instead. It makes a very, very nice meatloaf. And then you can actually add a little bit of the marinara over the top of the meatloaf. Now I'm going to let these cook inside the marinara sauce, which is going to take about an hour or 2, and the reason I like it to cook for that length of time, it gives a good flavor to the sauce. Here we are with the final dish, this hearty, family-pleasing meal that your family is sure to ask for over and over again. And we've also been able to make this meatloaf with the same recipe as I used for the meatballs. I substituted linguine for the spaghetti because my guests tonight prefer linguine. For this and other recipes, please join me at kitchengetaway.com.